In this module, we are exploring the competency Aligning Structures with Vision for Learning. This competency, in the spirit of leadership, discusses how systems and structures have inherent knowledge, practice, and capabilities. We say that leaders have the wisdom to identify, connect, and alter systems and structures to focus efforts and resources where it is most needed. Keen observers, careful communicators, leaders are points of connection and active constructors of systems that align and support. We want to thank our colleagues from the Fraser Valley chapter as they have shared their voices in support of our leadership.
When you work in a large system, many different perspectives and voices, and it's really important to keep the main thing the main thing. And what I would say is it's really tied to a clear direction of where you're headed, both organizationally and the vision and mission of the school district. But then with the various levels or departments you're working with, having a clear line of sight around what you're hoping to achieve, and really drawing that back to those common perspectives or common beliefs about where you want to be in the service of kids. It's been really important to bring that message to a place of you're almost tired of hearing about it, right? The redundancy piece. It just creates that level of fluency that's required, so people begin to see that your actions are connected, that they're not disparate parts. That someone mentioned this, and you're doing, all of a sudden you're doing this initiative, and people can't see where it's connected. And when the people leave, things stop. And so it's really important to build that capacity within the system by the resonance of we're working to achieve this particular picture or vision of what we want for kids.
It's so easy to get caught up in those shiny things and chase them down. And then you find you're trying to do way too many things and actually really doing a poor job of most of them. And so a long time ago, I realized that need to really streamline and do a couple of things really, really well. I'm really looking for the right people for our kids. This is a unique community, like all communities, and I think they need a certain somebody. And so I am always coming at it from that lens. I don't want somebody who's just teaching curriculum. Like, these kids need more and different, and the caring adult is probably more important than really proficient in the curriculum, I would say.
I think one of the ones that we've really tried to approach is the hierarchical structure that we exist in, and try to dismantle that so that we're really, really authentically listening to voices and getting a sense of what people are feeling and what does that look like. We bring people together. How do we ensure that there's meaning behind their time together? So really, I think dismantling that hierarchical structure, really being really intentional about how you structure times together, and even not just the times together, but when I go into a school, what does it look like when I go into a school? How am I really listening and asking questions and really being curious about what's happening? So that sense of really authentic listening and creating structures for interaction and collaboration.
Talk about the circle of privilege. Well, I'm in the dead center of it. So how do I come to the table and lead this work as a privileged white male, all the things, and so that was a journey for me. Look, we have to learn alongside. We don't have all the answers as formal leaders, right? We have a responsibility to create the conditions, but we have to learn alongside.
I'd like to think I'm a bit of a voice of a disruptor, I would say. I always try and bring up the fact when I can at appropriate times to say the system doesn't work for everybody, and we need to remember the kids that the system doesn't work for. And I think that that's a really big piece, to be able to say, we don't always have to do it this way. We can do it in a different way, or it's or being okay to say, this is just not good enough. This is not good enough we're not servicing our kids. And on a personal level, I am an alternate kid. I am the product of an alternate school. And it literally saved me, but also saved the fact that I was capable of being a really good student. And so the fact that I can bring that to the table, I'm in a position of power, I'm in a position of privilege to say, I was failed in this system. And you need to know that there's many of me in the system that you're not even realizing, right? Not all of us had a good time in school. A lot of us didn't. And so that's that piece that I'm always trying to bring voice to, that marginalized voice. Like, wait a minute, who's this good for? Is this good for the adults or is this good for the kids?
So we've done, as an example, a lot of work around student voice in our system, which seems simple enough, but we really had to do a ton of work with our adults to actually prepare them and open them up to do this work, the student voice work, in a meaningful way, which meant that we had to sit with some discomfort. So part of what gets in the way is, as adults, we don't like discomfort.
You got to give people the why. Why are we doing this? Why is this urgent? When you say, oh, our kids aren't reading, I don't think people really realize just how significant that is when we're letting kids leave our schools and they can't read. And so I think giving them the why, telling them why it's important to support, these kids, and looking at our Indigenous kids and how come we're losing our Indigenous kids? Why aren't they coming to school? What are we going to do about that? So I think how I can align is trying to generate that passion for the work that we're doing, because I think until you give people the deep down why, I don't think they necessarily understand, right? They just think it's, oh, we're doing literacy, oh, checkbox, numeracy. There's way more to it than that. Like, this is our community. Our kids are our community. I'm going to be living next to my kids. Who do I want them to be, and how can I help them be successful people?
Part of it is being able to engage them in a deep understanding of where we're headed. And so you have to set aside time with your school leaders to engage in these conversations and these experiences together. And so, yes, it's about knowing what the vision or the values or the mission are of an organization, but people have to see themselves in it.
And we know how many people are struggling in the system, the adults in the system, and how hard this work is. And I think that when our staff are struggling with their mental health or things that are going on in their family life, I can be that compassionate support. So I'm very lucky that this is a very small district. I know people by name, they know me. I can build relationships and I can help them reset, get the resources they need to be in a better place, so that when I'm getting them back into the field, they're coming back with a much better viewpoint. But it's that compassion that I think is sometimes missing in our big systems. I don't want to be a machine. I want a teacher to be able to call me and say, this is happening, and I can actually, affect change or get them the supports that they need. So I think that's really important if we're going to go after all these great goals of all of our kids reading and being numerate and wanting to come to school. I'm helping role model by being compassionate and helping people be their best selves, which I hope translates to what they're doing in front of kids.
What I enjoy here is it's small enough to be a little bit nimble. And because we don't have a department for everything, we're forced to collaborate. I also really appreciate that there are families in some of our schools whose grandparents went to that school. And it's like it's a thing that there are traditions and community, and people feel deeply committed and embedded within that school. I really appreciate that people are really committed to their schools. Generations are committed to the schools.